Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. I guess I should get my chats and everything up here, just in case anybody joins us early on here. And we're gonna watch this video about oh my. Had it on the wrongs. Sound settings. And I forgot to mute my stream on Twitch. That's dealt with now. Ooh, kaleidoscope. Okay. Uh. That for a sec. And I forgot to mute. There we go. Okie doke. Alright, let's get this video back up. There we go.
Gaming News Wrap Up video, where we discuss the happenings of the week. This week's topics include the latest Diablo 4 news, including the contentious launch trailer, the death of Overwatch 2's promised PvE mode, the latest on the Microsoft acquisition of Activision Blizzard, and more. As always, discussion timestamps can be found in the description below. But right before you skip ahead, just a quick reminder to ring that sub notification bell to be alerted to new Saturday episodes and stay up to date with gaming news highlights. But before we move on, a quick word from this video's sponsor. I built my website, Riker.com, using Squarespace, and I was able to do everything myself, quickly and easily, and with zero education in the field, all thanks to how easy Squarespace is to work with. Watch how easily I update the Diablo 3 section on my website to include all my video coverage of the latest season updates. Squarespace is flexible for any kind of website, whether for your business or your hobby, with tons of templates that you can easily customize to your needs, no knowledge of coding required. You can even connect your social media profiles to automatically push website content to your socials, set up members only areas with exclusive content, and sell products. Basically, if you want to build a website, I recommend Squarespace. It's the all-in-one platform for building your brand and growing your business online. You don't need to install a bunch of different plugins, you never have to worry about updates or patches. Stand out with a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and sell anything. Your products, content you create, and even your time. Squarespace is offering my viewers 10% off your first purchase with them. Just go to squarespace.com/Riker or click the link in the description to sign up and start building your online presence. That's squarespace.com/RHYKKER and use code Riker to get started today. Now, starting with some Diablo news. We got official word that we're in the clear to delete any Diablo 4 client you may still have installed from the server slam or earlier. When the game releases, you're going to have to re-download everything anyway, so no point in just having it occupy space on your drive in the meantime. Then we got this week the gameplay launch trailer for Diablo 4. And it's getting a healthy amount of downvotes because of its choice of song. You Should See Me in a Crown by Billie Eilish. It's an electropop industrial song featuring under-enunciated vocals over blaring synths and thumping bass, which I can't play for you because copyright. But check out the trailer for yourself, link in the description. Basically, people feel that the music choice doesn't fit Diablo, that they should have used music from the game or familiar music from older Diablo titles. Yeah, personally, I probably would have preferred that, or at least maybe some heavy metal, but you know, trailers can always be somewhat disconnected from the product. Like for films, for instance, you see songs used in trailers and those songs aren't actually in the movie. It's just to convey tone or just to make a hype trailer. And in fairness, the Billie Eilish song that they used is at least tonally dark. The lyrics seem to kind of fit, and the trailer is really well constructed to sync up with the musical beats. In fact, the mood actually reminds me of the trailer for the recent Dracula Untold movie. It was like, what, 2014?
Yeah, a while ago.
Not recent anymore. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, anyway.
It's too bad they didn't make more movies for Dracula Untold. I mean, apparently The Mummy, when that came out, that was supposed to be in the same like dark monster universe as Dracula Untold, but that The Mummy movie did so bad that it just wasn't that good, right? And they kind of scrapped the the whole thing, I guess, which sucks because Dracula Untold was, I think, a really good movie, really good retelling of like Dracula's origins and stuff. I liked it.
In the trailer, they used the song "Welcome to Your Life" by Lorde, and you know, say what you will about the movie, the trailer was banging.
Welcome to your
I also enjoyed the movie myself. I'm kind of sad that people seem to hate it, but whatever the case, if using this song helps them reach a wider audience, whatever. It's promotional material. It's not the in-game soundtrack. I hate it when Mortal Kombat started using rap music in its promo material, but you know, I guess they couldn't just keep using Techno Syndrome forever. No, I take.
But why not? It was so good. Like, man, I grew up on Mortal Kombat. I remember I was. Oh, geez, I'm gonna look up real quick here. Let's see. Mortal Kombat release date. Nope, that's the wrong one. Super Nintendo. 1992. So I was 8 years old when the original Mortal Kombat came out. And man, that game was fire. I remember going over to my friend's place after school, and he's like, yeah, I'm not going to be there because I'm going to be at like soccer practice or something like that, or hockey. He's like, but I'll tell my mom that you're coming over and you can just go over and play. So I just sat there for like 8 hours playing Mortal Kombat. It was amazing.
Take that back. They could have, and I hope they do keep using Techno Syndrome forever. But back to the D4 trailer. We got a glimpse of a world boss at about 1:12 seconds. We've seen this guy before in an even briefer clip, but we got a couple more moments here. And then at 1:20, we see something that could be a major story spoiler. So if you don't want to be spoiled by a theory, pause the video right here and skip ahead to the next timestamp.
Okay, so first, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to play the Diablo 4 gameplay launch trailer. We'll see how this goes.
bite my tongue, bite my tongue.
Your lives
Wait till the world is mine.
depend on what you do next.
Fall for these ocean eyes.
Choose wisely.
You should see me in the crowd. I'm gonna run, there's nothing to hide. Watch me make 'em bow. One by one, one by one. Count my cards, watch them fall. Blood on a marble wall. I like the way they all scream.
Wait, was that Lilith? Did that show Lilith? Yeah, that's Lilith. Okay, interesting. So now we see what at least one fight, one arena looks like. That's an interesting ability. Reminds me of that Blood Prophet dude. Interesting. Now, obviously, right here, we don't know if this is like a cutscene or an actual fight against her or what, but this looks like, if you look at the iconography on the ground, there's like this cross in the background. I'm not sure, but maybe this is Triune stuff, but it maybe seems more like Inarius's stuff for his church. That's now taken over, maybe. I don't know.
You should see me in the crowd.
Interesting. So the music was okay, I think. The music was okay. It could have been a bit darker. The chick's, I guess Billie Eilish, her voice was a bit high, I think. The rest of like the beats and everything, the background of the music was okay. I just think her voice needed to be made like darker or something. Maybe huskier would be a better word. I don't know. But her voice seemed a bit high pitched for the tone of the trailer and the game as a whole, right? The theme of the game, etc. But otherwise, it was all right, I think. I don't know why people are pissed about that. Like, who cares, dude? It's a song for a trailer. The whole freaking game isn't going to be like that. People have already played, including myself, the beta, and it was not like that. Right? It wasn't like disco or fucking techno or whatever for the music. It's dark and grim as it should be. It's fucking weird. People get so pissed off over the weirdest things these days, I swear. First world problems, right? Alright, let's continue with this.
You've been warned. So, at a minute 20, it appears as though we're about to fight Lilith. And on the floor, we can see this huge symbol. And this is the symbol of Mephisto.
Oh, okay,
as
it's
seen in the
Mephisto.
Book of Adria.
Cool.
We also see this exact symbol on the bloody wolf face. So, the leading theory was that the wolf is Mephisto. And since we've gathered that Lilith wants to go to hell for some reason, picking up the key to hell from Rathma, and we see her in hell in the cinematic when Inarius' army comes for her, we can deduce that this fight right here is in Mephisto's seat of power in hell. You know how in Diablo 2 we fight Diablo over that pentagram? This could be Mephisto's equivalent. And since Lilith is his daughter, she might be co-opting this realm. Maybe she wants to ascend to become the new Lord of Hatred. But what do you folks think? What are your theories here? And just generally, what do you think of the trailer?
That or it's not in hell. Right? It could be in Sanctuary, and that's the place where she needs to open the portal to go to hell. Because of her connection to it. Like in a lot of different stuff, books and stuff like that, movies, etc. Let's say a lot of different kinds of media regarding creatures and the like. A lot of times when they're like crossing over, it's places that are, let's say, near and dear to their heart, or something that's similar to themselves, a reflection of themselves, and that's why they need to be there to step over to like the mortal world or vice versa, etc. Maybe it's something similar here. Because we do know that they've had in the past ancient temples and stuff like that for the Triune, for instance, where on the surface, you know, it was like Mephisto, Diablo, and Baal. They were the three loving caretakers or whatever, right? The face of the Triune, but in reality, they were Mephisto, Diablo, and Baal. And underneath the surface, deep below the ground and stuff like that in their temples, they had actual proper rooms and iconography depicting the actual 3 primevals. So maybe it's a place like that. Because she is connected to the Triune in some fashion in this, I think.
Sound off in the comments. In other Diablo 4 news, have any of you been underwhelmed by the loot you get from treasure goblins during the server slam?
I never saw, during the server slam, a single fucking goblin. And I went pretty hard on that game. I played Rogue the whole time, and I explored a lot of the map. And I hit up pretty much every cellar I came across every single time. I never saw one in the overworld, and I never saw one in any dungeon or cellar or anything like that.
Personally,
Unfortunately.
I felt drop rates overall, just legendary drop rates period, were great. Legendaries were not raining from the sky. I still did get a couple, but you were actually incentivized to go out and seek aspects from dungeons while you're waiting for your legendaries. But when I killed treasure goblins, I don't think I ever got anything to drop that made it feel like it was worth my time to.
Yeah, that's something I saw a lot of people talking about online afterwards, like on Twitter and stuff, was that there, and somebody specifically asked, I think it was like Rod Ferguson or something, are treasure goblins bugged? And they said Blizzard said they were looking into it, because it seems that treasure goblins, for whatever reason, were bugged. Everything else in terms of loot seemed fine. Like, for instance, it would have been a problem if when I killed the butcher the one time during the server slam, if he seems to be guaranteed each time you fight him to drop a legendary, but he doesn't show up all the time, so it's okay in terms of like drop rates and stuff. If he wouldn't have dropped a legendary, I would have been upset, because it's kind of a tough fight typically, and you should be well rewarded for killing a hyper special creature that's the butcher. So if he wouldn't have dropped anything, I would have been not okay with that. And then I don't necessarily think that treasure goblins need to be dropping legendaries all the time, but they probably should have a much higher chance to drop legendaries than like regular monsters and bosses and all that. And whatever loot they do drop, aside from say a single legendary, maybe due to the rarity of the creatures, they should be dropping like a shitload of gold, a shitload of materials, and maybe like a bunch of like blues and yellows or something. Like, just that should be the loot pinata, is if you find a treasure goblin, right? Otherwise, what the hell is the purpose of them being there? They're too strong to be normal monsters, and they do waste a lot of time, and it's dangerous going through them. Especially, I imagine, on hardcore. Because you're going to be chasing them down, running through running through monsters, taking hits left, right, and center, just to try and kill that treasure goblin to get what, like a few K gold or something. Like, okay, not worth it at all. And then what's that going to incentivize people to do? Ignore the treasure goblins later if they come across them again.
Kill the treasure goblin. And Diablo boss Rod Ferguson tweeted that the team is aware of the issue and have already made a fix for launch. What the fix is, we don't know, but we'll find out soon enough. Treasure goblins, we're not dropping enough loot, so we've removed treasure goblins from the game. In other Diablo news, Blizzard has been making an official Diablo lore series.
Yeah, if anybody watching this in the future hasn't checked this out, I would definitely check out the Diablo 4 lore series they're doing right now. They're retreading, let's say, a lot of territory that's been done in the past. However, I would recommend checking it out because the artwork and everything. And it's the dude who does the voice for Lorith Nar from Diablo 4. That's at least the 2 that they put out so far, the 2 videos. He's voicing, doing the, what do you call it? The voiceover for it or whatever. So it's really good, really entertaining. And it's from a bit of a different perspective than in previous games.
We got the first 2 episodes covering the origin of angels and demons and the creation of Sanctuary. These videos are fantastically done, from the illustrations to the animation to the music and sounds, all capped off by the wonderful narration of Ralph Ineson, the voice of Lorath. Definitely check those out if you care at all about Diablo's story. It'll help set the stage for Diablo 4. Earlier in the week, we got an inside the game video in which devs talked about the story, and we actually get a little bit of a retcon. In this video, they say that it's been about 50 years since Malthael killed about 50% of humanity.
I thought it was
Previous
like
estimates
75%.
given to us were that 90% of the population was killed by Malthael. 50% is a lot more believable. It feels like if 90% of the world was killed, things would be much more post-apocalyptic. I mean, it would take a lot of time to rebound from 90% depopulation. The video also reaffirms that Lilith and Inarius are against each other and suggests that Inarius' faction may not necessarily be the good guys.
I mean, to be fair, has anybody that has either played the beta or knows anything about the lore of Diablo and Inarius, has anybody ever thought that Inarius was actually a good guy in any of this? Except for maybe when he first started out as, like, prior to him stealing the World Stone with Lilith and creating Sanctuary. Prior to that, maybe. But generally speaking, it seems angels, for the most part, are dicks. It reminds me very much of, like, demons and angels from Supernatural. They both have superiority complexes. They're both dicks. And I would imagine that in the context of Diablo 4, or the Diablo world in general, they're both bad. Because what they're bad for is humanity on Sanctuary in general. Because they both view humanity both as a tool and a weapon, but also as an abominations. Because of the intermingling of angel and demon to make humans, right? The Nephilim, etc., and all that. So both sides of the eternal conflict hate humans. So of course they're all dicks, including Inarius. Inarius doesn't give a fuck about humanity or anything, right? So of course he's going to use them to his own ends, etc. And he was shown, I don't know if anybody's ever read the Sin War trilogy novels for Diablo, but like it's shown there very much so, like how much of a facade his caring fatherly persona actually is. He doesn't care about humanity or whatever. They're just a tool.
Arius is in various states of bitterness. You're seeing a faction that has done as much good as necessarily bad. You as a player get to decide how you feel about those actions.
And we also got a major hint that we are unlikely to be in store for a happy ending.
With Diablo 4, you're very much watching a tragedy unfold.
I mean, this wouldn't be a surprise. Diablo 1, Diablo 2, and Lord of Destruction all have dark endings.
Very much so.
Despite the victories against evil. Diablo 3 really was the first game to have a very positive, upbeat ending before Reaper of Souls.
Yeah, before
which
Reaper of Souls.
brought back a darker ending. So what's going to be the tragedy of Diablo 4? Hard to believe that we're only a couple weeks away from finding out. Then also this week, Blizzard released a blog post on accessibility. How they added features that could help players with disabilities without negatively impacting gameplay for others. The game has over 50 accessibility features of various types.
Holy shit.
Like the ability to fully remap all control inputs, speech to text that transcribes what you say into text chat so that you don't have to type to other players.
Nice.
Font and cursor resizing, audio cues for drops that are basically audio loot filters, a built-in screen reader for those with reduced vision, and more. And honestly, a lot of this stuff can be useful to all players. If you want to read more, link in the description.
That's actually
In
pretty
other
cool. I
Diablo
like that.
news, in case you missed it, toward the very end of the server slam, Necromancer minions got a buff. Prior to that, Rod Ferguson had tweeted, quote, "Definitely hearing the feedback on the necro nerfs. I'm feeling them too. Remember, balance is journey, not a destination. It takes tweaking to get it right." Later he tweeted, quote, "PSA, we're in the process of rolling out a server-side hotfix buff to Necro Skellies. It'll take a while to propagate worldwide, so we appreciate your patience while it's happening. Now, I imagine a lot of players didn't get to experience the buffed skeletons. If you didn't play in the last few hours of the server slam, I don't believe you got to try them. But my question for those who did is, how are the skeletons now?
So I never played Necro during the server slam. No interest really in playing the Necro for the most part. Unless they change the whole mechanic of constantly spamming your button to heal or resurrect your minions. That's not fun. Anyways, but the I imagine that I hope that the buff would be significant enough that it would make a tank necro essentially through your minions viable again. Because from what I was hearing, what I was seeing is that necro was just your skellies were getting one shot by everything, man. It was not good. It was not fun. On top of it not being fun, having to resummon your skellies and blah 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 blah. Yeah. Whoever thought that that would be fun as a mechanic for the game, like, you need to, like, take a step back and scratch, maybe, like, rethink your position from Blizzard, because that was even before people played the server slam. When people heard that that's what it was going to be, they said, this doesn't sound fun at all. Please don't do this. But, you know, they did it anyway, because why listen to plebs, right?
How were they for you before, and then how were they post buff? Because I know most people said that they were terrible before the buff, at least, but I know some people were saying that they were actually fine. So if, for instance, if you're one of the people who thought they were fine before, do you now think they're too strong? And of course, if you...
Yeah, there's one guy, I don't remember his name. He did a video basically saying regarding Necros, at first I thought it was regarding just a server slam, but then he took it further and said, like, at release, I think. Don't quote me on that. And what turned me off from the video was that basically he's saying, okay, and this kind of makes sense, your defensive stats get applied, including things like thorns, etc. Those could be applied to your minions as a necromancer. So I imagine to some degree you might be able to do that also with the druid, which is cool. And he recommended putting a shield on, because the defensive stats of equipping a shield get also, some percentage of it gets applied to your skeletons and the like. Okay, cool. But then that's all well and good. But then he said, next, stay on world tier 1. The problem is, you have to take those skeletons as a necromancer, if that's what your build is, to world tier 2 and beat the capstone dungeon to get to world tier 3. And even with the shield on world tier 1, his skellies were getting wrecked pretty easily by, like, regular elites, mobs of, like, groups of mobs, of trash mobs. And then on top of that, when he fought the bosses in dungeons, those bosses, of course, were just kicking the shit out of his minions. Even though he did the whole, you know, playing on world tier 1 where it's much easier and had his shield equipped, right? Like, it's just asinine, stupid advice, I think, because it doesn't work. That was post or pre-buff. So I don't know what it's like after the buff. We'll see, I guess.
If you thought they were made too weak, do you still think they're too weak even after this buff? Sound off in the comments.
Yeah, I would say if the skeletons are still getting one shot by, like, regular monsters and regular elites, etc., like, where your uptime is not good on them because you need corpses to summon them, right? Then that's a problem. That's a problem, especially if you're invested into being a summoner. That's not good, because that's your main source of power there, of defense and offense, is your summons. And if they can't stay up, they're not doing the damage they need to be doing. And they don't have the tankiness to protect you, which is the point of it.
Also in D4 news this week, through an interview with Eurogamer, we learned some new details about world scaling. Currently, when going through the campaign, monster levels always scale up with your level, but some regions have a minimum level and don't scale down. But
Good.
Once you've completed the campaign,
I would say that is very good. Because that's one thing I was worried about, was that people would be able to go from, like, be, like, level 1, and then, like, go into, like, Act 2, Act 3, whatever, like, Skosglin or whatever, and the monsters would still be their level.
Campaign once, if you then start a new character and choose to skip the campaign, those regions that previously had a minimum level will not have that minimum level, meaning you can start leveling anywhere in the world.
So that's also good. That this idea of once you beat the campaign one time on a character, then a new character basically can go into adventure mode. But you can choose, do you want to do campaign mode or for leveling, or adventure mode style for leveling. You're still in the same world, I think, as other people. It's just personally for your character, your options are different, because in the adventure mode like play style, you're free to go wherever for the most part and level up, do stuff. And I would say, like, as a word of advice for people, depending on how familiar you are with the game, of where to go, etc., what to do, maybe even if you've beaten the campaign once, if you're still not quite familiar with areas, etc., then maybe go do the campaign again, because that would give you more structure and lead you as to where to go.
World. The only exception will be strongholds, which will always be a few levels above your character level in order to keep them challenging. Also, however, you can apparently become a couple levels higher than a zone during the campaign. So
Interesting.
we don't know what the exact formula here is on level scaling, but it sounds like, in general, enemies will scale up with you, but you could be a little higher level than enemies, or lower level, depending on where you are.
So that's another interesting point, because another worry people had in regard to character power progression, right, was that with the scaling of monsters, the way it seems to work is that they scale up with you, as he said. But there was no mention previously that I know of you being higher level than monsters, like them essentially having a cap. This probably is determined based on whether you're in campaign mode or adventure mode, effectively, for leveling. So if you can get to a point, like say in the Fractured Peaks, right now, I think at least during the server slam, the highest level place was, in enemies, was the core dragon or Dragan or whatever stronghold with like all the vampires and stuff in the northwestern area of the Fractured Peaks. That was level 30 plus. So I imagine that the way this should work then is that when you hit level 31 and higher, like maybe the monsters only scale upwards to like 35 or something max, but once you hit 36, 37, 38, 39, then it'll be much easier for you to come back to like grind that place out again for drops or whatever experience, etc. And that's good. I think that's a good thing, because one of the concerns people had was with scaling was always like, yeah, I don't mind feeling challenged, but there's a certain point where it's like, okay, I'm fighting mobs, I'm fighting enemies that I fought at the beginning of the game, and I'm level 70. Why are they this hard still? It feels like you haven't really progressed. You might as well be level 1 still fighting these guys, right? Like it's a bit weird. So for them to have this cap on scaling in certain areas, again, I don't know how that's going to transition into the adventure mode style of play for leveling a character, but it'll be interesting to see.
Oh, and if you stay in World Tier 2, monsters will never be above level 50.
Oh,
you
interesting.
need to advance to World Tier 3 to get monsters to keep rising in level with you beyond 50. Also, if you play in a party, monsters will scale separately per player. This was in the game since beta. So a level 1 character and a level 30 character can theoretically play together without the level 1 feeling useless, because the level 1 character is seeing a level 1 version of the same monster. So, for argument's sake, the level 30 guy may see a monster with 10,000 health, just a random number, don't hold me to this, and then the level 1 person sees a monster with 100 health. It's the same monster, they just see different health amounts, and hits from both characters, level 1 and the 30, both take off a relatively equal percentage of the enemy's health, but The higher level character has more skills in his toolkit and more legendary powers to stack.
Yeah, that's how, as far as understood it, from past experience with other games when they have like scaling where you have party members of different levels in a same region, for instance. I think the first time I saw this was Guild Wars 2, where say you're a higher level than most people in an area. Say it was like a level 20 questing area, but you're a level 25 or 30. It would scale you down effectively to that area. But what it would do is it would just make it so that you, whatever your damage is, you simply deal a percentage of the monster's damage. And there's some variance there, because if you're depending on your skills, your items, etc., you're still going to, maybe there's like a baseline percentage, but then you can add on top of that based on the power of your skills, your gear, etc., to get increases to that percentage. So you're not always the same as like a lower level character, because that doesn't necessarily also make sense. It should be quicker for you to kill that lower level monster, even though you're being scaled down, than a character that's either equal to or lower level than that creature, I think.
Stack, more bonuses, etc. So hopefully they're dealing a higher relative chunk of damage, but it's not going to be that the level 1 character is doing like 0.5% of the damage of the level 30 character. This basically allows people to actually play together, even if they're not close in level, without having to have the high levels carry the low levels. In fact, depending on how it's balanced, you might run the risk of the opposite, where sometimes downscaling makes the encounter easier, but
Yeah.
hopefully they have things dialed in well there. Then lastly, for Diablo news, Blizzard held this week an interesting promotion, a butcher-themed dinner in New York City
The meat
that
shake,
led to the
yeah.
unveiling of the Demon Meat Shake, which was then given out to select winners yesterday. The dinner event was a 4-course meal at a venue.
Let's see, the Diablo 4 course dinner, May 17th, 2023. Course 1, Khazra Marrow. Bone marrow candles with pavlovers and tomato jam. Course 2, Sanctuary Tartare, hand-cut beef tartare with black truffles and a bursting blood orb. Course 3, Cannibal Cassoulet, black silky chicken with black trumpets, white beans, and sausage. Course 4, the Demon Meat Shake, the Butcher Special, billions of demons chopped and blended, killed in the game. Enjoyed IRL. Now, the one thing I would say about the Demon Meat Shake is it wasn't meat. It was apparently a vegan drink or some shit. It's just like, oh, come on, guys. Should have had both versions, right? One for people who aren't vegan and one that is vegan.
You jazzed up with Diablo decor, lots of candles and butcher-themed paraphernalia like cleavers and meat hooks. It was hosted by drag performer Gottmik, who was dressed up in what could easily become a necromancer cosmetic, like an open ribcage dress.
Wow.
And there were about 30 people in attendance, including some folks from the Diablo team, plus influencers from different spheres, with myself, Mr. Llama, Anna Cake, and Force Gaming there as
Interesting.
Diablo 4 creators. Plus, there was even celebrity guest David Harbour, who turns out to be a real hardcore gamer. You know, on top of being a delightful human being and great actor. I live streamed the dinner on Twitch if you want to check it out. Towards the end, Rod Ferguson sat down with us and answered some questions about Diablo 4, but overall, don't watch this with the expectation of it being an interview filled with information.
Yeah, it was just them sitting down having a good time, enjoying this themed dinner or whatever, right? For the most part. I know some people would probably say, oh yeah, they're just trying to sweeten the pot with these quote-unquote influencers or whatever, right? Like Riker and stuff like that. And who knows, maybe that's true. I don't care. Either way. I just care, is the news they put out good, and is it honest, and is the freaking game good or not?
Now, the dessert itself was revealed to be the Demon Meat Shake, which was interesting. There was no actual meat. It was a dessert with the closest approximation that I could make being like Jello that's been chopped up into bits and then partially liquefied. It was this bizarre combination of different textures and flavors. The point was for it to kind of feel like you're drinking demon guts. And yeah, mission accomplished. Every thick sip delivered a different ratio of slime to chunks. Sometimes you'd get a hint of cinnamon for a little demonic kick. Sometimes you'd get what felt like a berry seed, either from a blueberry or a raspberry. Then there was a ghoul brain at the bottom that I believe was vanilla flavored. If you're someone that likes to get boba tea
Interesting.
with jellies, this was basically a cup of the jellies in different sizes and flavors. And then after the reveal, Blizzard held a giveaway, and on Friday they sent a number of lucky winners this unique beverage experience. If you gotta try the Demon Meat Shake, sound off in the comments with your thoughts on it. Now, onto some Overwatch 2 news.
Okay.
It's been a bad week.
I don't care about Overwatch, so I'm not going to watch that. Microsoft, Activision, Blizzard. Okay, let's check this out. BlizzCon, Last Epoch, Mortal Kombat 1, Dead by Daylight. Okay, I'm going to check out, we'll check out the Microsoft Activision part. The BlizzCon, I don't know, that's actually apparently going to be a real in-person event this November, apparently. That's cool. I'm glad they're bringing that back. And then there's the Mortal Kombat section, so check those out.
More fleshed out. Then moving on to an update on the Microsoft acquisition of Activision Blizzard. The European Commission has approved of the acquisition on the condition of certain concessions in the area of cloud gaming. Basically, consumers need to be allowed to stream Activision games that they purchased on any cloud streaming platform. As it stands, the only body to firmly rule against the acquisition is the UK's CMA, who blocked the deal. Activision CEO Bobby Kotick said, after they got the approval from the European Commission, quote, "We intend to meaningfully expand our investment and workforce throughout the EU, and we're excited for the benefits our transaction brings to players in Europe and around the world."
Now, if I'm not mistaken, didn't the UK separate from the EU or something, right? Brexit and all that. So who cares? If you can get to the rest of the EU and then it's just not happening in the UK. Like, yeah, you could say those players, gamers in the UK, it sucks to be them, but I mean, as a business, you have to push beyond it. It's not just them. They're not the center of the world, i.e. essentially, so you got to do what you got to do.
This is in contrast to a comment made from an Activision rep after the UK blocked the deal, which basically said that they will reevaluate their strategy for the UK and that big companies will now see that the UK is closed for business.
Exactly.
And just as a point of clarity, the US's FTC has not yet approved nor blocked the deal. The case is ongoing. They seem reluctant to want to accept it, but it's not blocked the way that it's blocked with the CMA. And in the case of the CMA, Microsoft and Activision are planning to appeal. However, the UK regulator, the CMA, is still standing by its decision even after the European Commission gave its approval of the acquisition. However, the UK Chancellor seems unhappy with the CMA's decision, or particularly the fact that it has led to the headline that the UK is now closed for business. When the Chancellor appeared at the British Chambers of Commerce on May 17th, he stated that all UK regulators need to, quote, understand their wider responsibilities for economic growth.
Yeah, exactly. It's like this black and white thing they have going on with the whole cloud gaming part or whatever. It's like, if I don't know, typically in business deals, a lot of times it's either one side wins out over the other, or both sides have to make concessions to make a deal. And it seems in this case, the UK is trying to push, or the CMA is trying to push for concessions only on Blizzard Activision's part and not theirs, which is in a lot of cases bad for business, because a lot of times that pushes business out, right? And hence UK's closed for the gaming industry, basically, at least, or whatever, right? Like, you just shot yourself in the foot, damn it. Because other companies and everything are going to see that, and they're not going to want to engage, because they're going to think, well, they're hardcore closed off regarding things, and it's only their way or the highway. There's no actual business relationship, quid pro quo there. So it's like, I'm not going to deal with that.
Though he did stress that his comments were not intended to undermine the CMA's decision. I guess they weren't intended to, but he didn't really care that they did that.
Yeah, it wasn't intended to, but the fact that it did, who fucking cares? Like, I like that.
Oh, what's that? Oh no, I don't intend to make it seem like I'm threatening you. I just like baseball.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it seems like there's a little bit of pressure there.
Hilarious.
Ultimately, the CMA doesn't have the power to block the deal outright. They have the power to block it in the UK. That's my understanding, at least. So, in theory, if all other regulators of different countries approve, then Microsoft and Activision Blizzard could choose to go through with the acquisition, and they just have to change how they handle their business in the UK. Like, by leaving the UK. I
Yeah.
don't think this is a likely outcome, but in theory, then in some quick Zelda news.
I mean, I imagine that Blizzard, of course, being a business, they're going to want to have for their markets for availability. They're going to want access to as many markets as possible because obviously that would mean they make more money. But if they have to, for the long-term sake of their business and profitability, leave the UK alone and come back to it maybe later at some point, or just don't touch it at all to continue forward, then of course they're going to do that. That would be the smart decision.
News, Tears of the Kingdom has been selling incredibly well. Over 10 million copies in its first. That's high praise. Then in some quick BlizzCon news, we got the official dates. BlizzCon 2023 will happen on November 3rd and 4th at the Anaheim Convention Center. More details about the show will come in the next month. Then in some Last Epoch news, and in other quick news, we got this week the official announcement trailer for Mortal
Liu
Kombat
Kang.
1.
Maybe?
Speaking of
I don't
Mortal
know.
Kombat earlier, it appears to be a soft reboot, technically a sequel, but taking place in basically an alternate timeline created by Liu Kang. I always loved
Liu-
Mortal Kombat as a
Liu
kid.
Kang, okay.
I love the brutal violence, but I think as graphics have become increasingly realistic, I'm starting to get just a tad less entertained and more kind of put off just a bit. Still, the trailer is overall looking fantastic, and I'm just happy that Mortal Kombat lives on. Pre-orders are already live, and the game goes into beta in August. And lastly, in some WTF news, actor Nicolas Cage is coming to multiplayer survival horror game Dead by Daylight.
What the fuck?
Like,
Yeah.
as himself.
What the fuck?
It's not clear exactly what this will entail. We'll find out on July 5th, but it seems he may be a new character.
Wait, he looks like kind of like him when he was what the fuck was that movie? Not Two-Face, Double Arrow or something like that. That's kind of how he's dressed.
That you get to play, not that he's portraying a character. It's you get to play as Nick Cage.
That's funny.
You gotta love Nick Cage. And that's gonna wrap up this week's video. But
Alright.
do be sure to check out last week's video in which we discussed the Diablo 4 Server Slam patch notes. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Twitch, Patreon, and YouTube supporters for making these videos possible. If you like what you see on this channel and want to support the creation of more content, you can consider pledging on YouTube or Patreon and unlocking behind-the-scenes content, monthly virtual hangouts, and more.
Alright, yeah, go check out Riker's stuff on YouTube if you like that sort of thing. Alright, I'll be right back and we'll get started with some elderly rings. All right, I'm back. Ugh. I'm going to, let's see, docs. Sorry, I'll be right back. I gotta fix something with my stream.